getting our players set up for round 6. We have Tommaso Benedetti and Roberto Porretti playing against each other, and two players that I'm really looking forward to seeing because I haven't had the privilege to be able to watch these two players battle on stream before.
Yeah, so Roberto is a player that is a former top 16 contender, and we are going to go on stage here, players getting ready for this match. So yeah, Roberto been around for a little bit, you know, as I just mentioned, top 16 at Worlds, and Tommaso doesn't have maybe, you know, a lot of achievements from live events, but we can see, you know, Players Cup top 8 there, and oh, so my bad. Sorry.
Which one's which?
Which one's which?
Tommaso on the left there. Yeah, not so many live achievements as you were saying there, Shoda, but a lot of playing in the grassroots scenes, playing online, obviously competing in the Players Cup when we were in our little bit of an online era as well. Roberto, as we were mentioning, top 16 Worlds in 2018, but also doing pretty well in the Players Cup, getting top 8 in Players Cup 3, and some great finishes in European internationals, both in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, so Roberto, been around for a while. Tommaso managed to do very well at these online events that especially happened during the period of 2022, you know, 2022. So yeah, very, very interesting matchup here. Two very strong players. I can't wait to get into this. I'm very excited.
Especially since, you know, a player like Tommaso that's had a lot of online success, converting that into live success is a really difficult thing. You know, you're not in the comfort of your own home. You know, you can't go grab a snack anytime you fancy it from the fridge. You know, all of those factors really add up to the long tournament days that we have, and keeping that focus in a different environment is very difficult. Clearly, Tommaso, though, doing a great job. Both of these players sitting at 5-0 right now. Yeah,
5-0, started strong. You know, it's a tough competition. We have a lot of strong trainers here, and it is the last event before Worlds, so this is the last chance to still secure some championship points for the World Championships in Yokohama, Japan later this year. So, you know, 5-0, great start. Maybe we can see one or maybe both of these players even in day 2 tomorrow.
Well, I'm not going to jinx it. I'm gonna just let the games play out. We'll see how they do. At least one of these players is going to go X1, of course. As we see Tommaso's team on the screen there, the Futtermane Amoonguss, Arcanine Iron Bundle, one of your favorites, Shona, Kingambit, and that Dragonite.
Yeah, no, the Kingambit, definitely one of my favorite competitive Pokemons this season. Although I have to admit, I don't usually run the Assault Vest version, but I do like to run that Terra Dark Black Glasses with Swords Dance set a lot. I've been playing it a lot this regulation, and it's really great. But Assault Vest, also a very, very good version.
I'm looking forward to your predictions here because I'm sure they're going to be absolutely on point for what this Kingambit's going to be doing. A little note there just before we go over to Roberto's team. I did see that Encore on the Iron Bundle, which could make a little bit of a difference here. And wow, Roberto running a Magnezone. I cannot wait to see what this is going to be doing.
This is something completely different than we've seen in Fluttermane. Yes, is a Pokemon we see a lot, has a lot of use, but Breloom, I haven't seen a Breloom yet this entire tournament. Chien-Pao, Magnezone, Garchomp, Talonflame. Okay, you know, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, you know, more of common picks, but even a Pokemon like Garchomp that it used to be popular earlier, like, you know, all the way back in 2014, but this year I haven't really seen a lot of it yet.
Not at all. And, you know, if you close your eyes slightly, maybe you look at Breloom, Magnezone, Talonflame, and Garchomp, and you think, hang on a second, am I playing like 2017 right now? Like this is really great because you know, Roberto's got experience in different formats, in previous formats, and he's using that experience with these Pokemon that he knows a little bit better maybe than Tommaso, and that could really prove to his advantage. But one thing I'm looking at here, of course, is that Terra Ghost on the Breloom with that Focus Sash. That's going to make the Spores very, very difficult for Tommaso to deal with. And it's a little bit like an Amoonguss, but just slightly speedier, right?
Yeah, slightly speedier Amoonguss. You know, we did mention Amoonguss Vivillon, but we didn't give any respect to that Breloom, which, hey, maybe we should have. And but the thing with Breloom and also that Terra Ghost is, of course, that it can be made immune to fake outs and also extreme speed, so you know, preventing that potential flinch from something like an Iron Hands, which we have seen a lot of, obviously. Right. So very good Terra choice there for that Breloom, in my opinion. Yeah, so yeah, I hope we get to see it on the battlefield.
I mean, yeah, like right now, though, if you're watching along with us in chat, do give a little bit of support to both of these players. Whoever you want to win, whoever you're supporting with, maybe friends and family at home, if you're watching these players along, do show your support. And let's encourage Tommaso to get the first live result to put on that achievements list going on stream the next time.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, even though people might say, oh, okay, you know, Roberto has this crazy team and I really want to see it win, you know, I'm also a really big fan of the team that Tommaso is playing, even though it is more of a standard set, because, you know, King Gambit, it's still, it is one of my favorites. And not only that, but he is also running that Arcanine with Howl, and I just love that combo.
Yeah, just like, let's just lay it out on the table. It's the Arcanine and the King Gambit. That's where this comes from,
yeah.
isn't it?
Of course, no, but also that combination of just, you know, Howl boosting a King Gambit attack, and it's such a hard hitter. It just does so much damage. Although, you know, without that Terra Dark that I'm usually used to, you know, having that Terra Fire instead to prevent potential burns from like a Will-O-Wisp or something, you know, might need more than just 1 or 2 howls. You know, maybe we'll just see Arcanine howling on the field.
Well, definitely, and you know, I think the Breloom on Roberto's side of the field is going to make a big difference there. Because of the Assault Vest, it can't protect itself, and therefore it's going to be wanting to, you know, make sure that it's not taking a priority Mach Punch before it can get the Sucker Punch off. And certainly Breloom with that Technician ability in the Mach Punch, King Gambit's a pretty bulky Pokemon. It's able to take a lot of hits, but I'm not sure that it can take a Mach Punch.
Oh yeah, probably not with if it doesn't Terra into the Fire type. I'm actually unsure about that because, as you said, that Technician is boosting that Mach Punch since it is below 60 base power, and it is 4 times effective, so King Gambit does have to watch out for that a little bit.
It definitely does. What I'm really excited to see, though, and it's the first thing that I saw, is how this Magnezone matches up, and we're going to see it. Turn 1 coming out onto the field. We have Magnezone and Talonflame coming out for Roberto, and Fluttermane Dragonite the lead for Tommaso.
Yeah, and this Magnezone, I want to mention right away, it is carrying that choice specs. So, you know, Roberto here in a position to just go for something like a Tailwind on his Talonflame and then just attack with the Magnezone. The Dragapult, the Dragonite is running Stomping Tantrum though, so that is something this Magnezone has to watch out for, but it is playing Terra Flying.
And Sturdy as well, so depending on how this Fluttermane targets, whether it goes for something like a Dazzling Gleam to break the Sturdy or the kind of invisible Focus Sash, so to speak, from that Magnezone, it will be able to take a Stomping Tantrum from the Dragonite without going for a Terra. And that's something we'll have to see if Roberto is taking advantage of as Talonflame kicks off the turn with a Tailwind.
And Magnezone going for a Volt Switch here, does not want to take a Stomping Tantrum, gonna attack the Dragonite and switch right back out. That Dragonite is playing multi-scale, so that is broken now, taking half damage from that Volt Switch. That was a lot of damage for, you know, it being cut in half. So Roberto is gonna have to switch something else in here, and we do still need to see both the Dragonite and the Fluttermane on Tommaso's side attack. Chi-Pow coming in here for Roberto though.
And activating that Sword of Ruin ability, that's going to make this Talonflame a little bit more vulnerable to anything that comes out. But it's a one-hit knockout of the Chi-Pow. The Dazzling Gleam is easily enough, and no Focus Sash that we usually see onto that Chi-Pow. Dragonite finishing off the turn, of course, with another Tailwind matching that Talonflame.
Yeah, Dragonite matching that Tailwind here, I think is a really, really nice play, since I think even though the Magnezone is playing that Choice Specs item, it's, you know, Dragonite with that multi-scale is not in a position to be KO'd turn 1, and, you know, that Chi-Pow going down there is, you know, huge for Tommaso there, you know, won't be able to lower defenses on Tommaso's side of the field. But of course now Magnezone coming back in, and we did see that, I mean, it was faster thanks to that Tailwind on Roberto's side, but now that both players are having Tailwind on the field, who knows if it's still faster? Probably not than the Fluttermane.
Definitely not than the Fluttermane, no, but it could be faster than the Dragonite. They're both fairly similar in their natural capabilities. Dragonite is a little bit faster, at least in its capability, but it's certainly going to be going very, very fast this turn, starting off with an extreme speed. Brave Bird, a follow-up into the Fluttermane. Critical hit.
Fluttermane just takes it out.
One hit knockout.
Is going going to go down to that Brave Bird recoil, but that is also a huge KO for Roberto there. Huge critical hit.
And the recoil knocking out the Talonflame as well. No more Tailwind coming out from Roberto's side of the field. The Dragonite hangs on with 14 hit points. It's not going to be feeling great coming into the next turn, but at least, you know, there's 2 Pokemon down on Roberto's side of the field. Tommaso still has 3 Pokemon, albeit the Dragonite's only part of a Pokemon right now. And it is going to be that Garchomp joining the field. If that's got, it doesn't have access to Rock Slide, so going to have to target down the Dragonite specifically with that Dragon Claw.
Yeah, so Tommaso had a 3 Pokemon advantage here, but of course, does have to be careful. You know, this Dragonite is in KO range, although it could still go for an extreme speed, but if it does attack that Garchomp, it is going to go down to that Rough Skin. Magnezone is locked into Thunderbolt here, and since Roberto only has 2 Pokemon remaining, it won't be able to switch out and switch the move that it's using. So Magnezone kind of stuck here just, you know, spamming Thunderbolts, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing.
Maybe not. I mean, this is a really potentially good opportunity for the Magnezone to go for a Terra Flying here, because that allows Garchomp to go for its Earthquake. I mean, it does have access to Stomping Tantrum as well, so it's not forced to go for that Earthquake, but certainly with whatever Pokemon Tommaso has in the back, it's definitely a good idea to keep your options as open as they can be.
Yeah, but we are going to see a Terra here on Tommaso's side of the field. It's going to be the Terra Grass on that Arcanine. Really interesting to see like Terra Grass with Safety Goggles Arcanine, you know, wants to just resist those ground moves from this Garchomp that could, you know, potentially fire off an Earthquake. And we are going to see a Terastallization on Roberto's side as well. Is going to be that Magnezone turning into that Flying type. So yeah, Garchomp is free to just spam Earthquake here and hit both Pokemon, although, you know, Dragonite is still on the field and it is immune to Earthquake. Dragonite Extreme Speed going to do a little bit of damage to that Magnezone, not really going to hurt it. Dragon Claw, though, easily enough to KO this Dragonite on Tommaso's side of the field, so evening out the playing field a little bit. But, you know, Arcanine's classical for a move is going to go for a Flare Blitz here, but thanks to the Terra Flying, barely does not knock out that Magnezone. Going to take a little bit of recoil damage, and this Magnezone Thunderbolt is not going to be very effective, so Arcanine hangs on pretty nicely.
It does hang on pretty nicely, but not a great position for this Arcanine to be in. This Garchomp is carrying the Rough Skin ability, and so King Gambit that's just come in, certainly susceptible to an Earthquake, and there's no restrictions on Roberto's side of the field because of that Terra Flying from the Magnezone. Of course, Magnezone does have to worry about the Sucker Punch or the Extreme Speed, so Tommaso has a couple of priority options here to be able to knock out this Magnezone this turn. It'd be interesting to see how he targets and where he wants to put the damage, because Extreme Speed is a little bit less powerful than Sucker Punch, but you've got to preserve as much HP on the Pokemon remaining as you can, so you definitely want to be optimizing the damage from that Rough Skin on the Garchomp.
Yeah, Magnezone here, you know, can't really stop either a Sucker Punch or an Extreme Speed coming into its slot and KOing it, so it's probably going to go down here without being able to attack. Sucker Punch from the King Gambit easily enough to knock out the Magnezone. This Arcanine here now could go for a Howl or a Will-O-Wisp, you know, a Will-O-Wisp onto that Garchomp, you know, lowering its attack by stages could be huge for Tommaso. Earthquake going to come out here first. Onto that King Gambit, does about half HP, so both Pokemon hanging on very, very nicely here. Is the Will-O-Wisp going to hit? It does not hit!
Oh, that's huge there as this Garchomp, you know, really does want all of the attack that it has remaining. That King Gambit isn't able to protect, and so now, you know, the combination of Sucker Punch and 2 Extreme Speeds is going to have to be enough for Tommaso to knock out that Garchomp. Otherwise, that Garchomp's just going to be able to Earthquake this turn, Dragon Claw next turn, and that Arcanine is going back to Tommaso.
Yeah, and you know, if that Will-O-Wisp had connected with that Garchomp, then the Earthquake would not have been able to take out this King Gambit here. I mean, maybe a little Sucker Punch here doing a lot of damage to that Garchomp, so maybe even, you know, if Arcanine had gone for a Howl to boost that damage even more, might have been an option as well. Earthquake here, going to knock out the King Gambit easily. Arcanine barely hanging on, but, you know, any attack that this Arcanine, you know, uses onto this Garchomp is going to hurt it, thanks to that Rough Skin ability. Arcanine going to go for a Will-O-Wisp here, burn that Arcanine, burn that Garchomp, but I don't know if Tommaso can really come back from this. Definitely not.
I think it's going to be very hard, considering the Sucker Punch was a same type attack bonus from that King Gambit, and King Gambit is naturally really more powerful than Arcanine, so it's hard to see this extreme speed doing as much damage. You see it coming out into the Garchomp there, not doing as much damage, but will this Arcanine go down? It does not go down to the rough skin, hangs on with a few hit points, and it's going to be Dragon Claw coming out from this Garchomp that's going to take the game for Roberto.
Yeah, game one going to Roberto, but really well played from both sides. We saw two huge knockouts on both sides of the field. That Chi and Power, of course, going down turn one, not doing anything. And it is playing that Life Orb over that Focus Sash, you know, Focus Sash being already played on that Breloom. But, you know, Chi and Power with Life Orb, that sounds like a heavy hitter. We don't see that a lot.
Yeah, even with a multi-scale on the Dragonite, it's definitely going to have to think about going for a Terra to be able to survive, you know, the big ice spinners that can come out from there. And also the Icy Wind as well as an option there that we didn't mention in team preview. I think looking back at that game, the real king of the game, so to speak, the one that put in the most work, I think, was that Magnezone, getting those big Thunderbolts off onto the field, but most importantly, when it went for the Terra Flying, being able to hang on from that Flare Blitz from the Arcanine. If it went down that turn, the Arcanine would have stayed at full health, and even if a Will-O-Wisp missed, as it did in that end game, if the Arcanine had like half of its health left in addition to what it had, it probably would have been in a place where it could go toe-to-toe with Garchomp.
Yeah, and again, looking back to that round, I wonder if, you know, Tommaso had gone for something like a Howl instead of that Will-O-Wisp, you know, risking that miss onto that Garchomp. The Sucker Punch would have done a little bit more damage, and then also the Extreme Speed would have done a little bit more damage. So that might have been enough to KO that Garchomp, who knows?
I mean, the other suggestion that you could have is maybe using that Assurance, which would be a little bit more powerful alongside that Extreme Speed. We'll never know. The game happened as it did, and we're going to be looking forward to game two now. So looking at this, what do you think Tommaso can do differently here?
So, I mean, I did like the lead with, like, you know, Dragonite and Fluttermane, but, you know, the Fluttermane, it did get a critical hit from that Brave Bird, so, you know, that was a little bit unfortunate. So I'm curious to see if Tommaso just wants to go with that same play, thinking, okay, you know, maybe the Fluttermane wouldn't have gone down without the critical hit, but it was still in a good position, and maybe Roberto wants to adapt a little bit here.
We'll see if there's any adaptations, as it's the same lead for Roberto coming out there. But a little bit of a switch up here from Tommaso, the Dragonite and Arcanine for Tommaso, and of course the same lead as previous Talonflame and that all-important Magnezone.
Yeah, so, you know, again, Roberto here could easily go for the same play, just, you know, Tailwind and Thunderbolt, although it still does have to respect both that Stomping Tantrum and, of course, the Flare Blitz from that Arcanine. Although, you know, he might not necessarily expect either of those Pokemon to go for that move right here, since, you know, Arcanine can go for either a Howl, or Dragonite can also set up the Tailwind itself like it did in the first game.
Right.
So Roberto kind of has to decide, you know, does he want to Terra the Magnezone, or does he just want to Volt Switch out again, not risk anything? Talonflame is going to set up Tailwind here, and the Magnezone is going to move next, Volt Switching into that Arcanine and doing a lot of damage.
That is so much damage, and the Arcanine on less health than a Thunderbolt from the last game when it went for the Terra Grass. Tommaso really taking great advantage of Tommaso predicting that Roberto was going to go for the Volt Switch maybe on the Dragonite to break the multi-scale, and just leaving that Arcanine a little bit more exposed in this turn. Roberto taking advantage of that so well. Garchomp coming in, taking a Flare Blitz. That's going to be recoil plus rough skin damage, and this Arcanine all of a sudden is not looking too healthy at all.
No, this Garchomp is, I mean, the Dragonite, although it is setting up the Tailwind here as well, Garchomp is like in a really nice position here, because this Dragonite, it's running Extreme Speed, Stomping Tantrum, and Terra Blast, so no Dragon move to hit that Garchomp. But the Garchomp, on the other hand, is running Dragon Claw, and, you know, this Dragonite does still have its multi-scale, so it will definitely live one of those moves. But the Arcanine can easily go down to either Talonflame or Garchomp here.
It certainly can, and with the Tailwinds matched like they were in game one, the Garchomp that's coming in is going to outspeed the Dragonite and the Arcanine. So especially since this Arcanine can't protect, which is something we didn't mention in game one, now Roberto has the opportunity to really target into that slot if he wants to, and try to do as much damage as possible, especially since that Dragonite isn't able to boost up with something like Dragon Dance that we've seen on, say, Julio Tarlow's Dragonite. it's a little bit less of a threat going forward because it can't make itself more of a threat.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it can also not be intimidated by that, inherited from the Arcanine. But Dragonite going to Terra Slash here, Brave Bird going into that Dragonite, going to break that multi-scale. So we might see Dragonite, it's actually going to go for an Earthquake here, going to easily be able to knock out the Arcanine, but not going to affect either the Talonflame or the Dragonite. So Arcanine not really doing much this game, unfortunately. That one Flare Blitz didn't really have a lot of impact.
No, not at all. Kind of expecting another little Extreme Speed to be coming out there. Maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity, but Terra Blast goes into the Talonflame. The Talonflame does not go down. It's going to be hanging on with just a sliver. I think that's kind of the story of this game and this match so far. It's going to be a really nice opportunity for Roberto maybe to get a little bit of a later Tailwind if he can switch it out and protect it.
Yeah, so now Fluttermane coming in here for Tommaso's side, threatening that Garchomp a little bit, although, Garchomp could potentially still go for that Terra. Roberto hasn't used it yet on his Magnus like he did in the first game. And the Talonflame here in a position, could go for another Brave Bird, but then will knock itself out through that recoil. But, maybe could also decide to go for something like a Will-O-Wisp onto the Dragonite.
And it does have an option of going for a Quick Guard as well to block any Extreme Speeds. Maybe that's the reason that Tommaso decided to opt against that. That could protect it for another turn, kind of keep it on the field. But I feel like in this position, Roberto wants the Talonflame to actually go down and get another Pokemon in so he can really threaten a little bit more damage. As Quick Guard is the move of choice for Roberto in this turn.
Yeah, Dazzling Gleam going to just knock out both the Talonflame and the Garchomp. So Tommaso or Roberto expecting possibly an Extreme Speed there, but not happening. And Fluttermanes, they tend to be a lot faster than Garchomp, so easily outspeeding it, going for a knockout there. No terrestrialization on Roberto's side of the field. So we know that the Magnezone is going to come in here now, but we haven't seen Roberto's last Pokemon yet.
We haven't at all, and that Fluttermane carrying the Choice Specs is going to be locked into that Dazzling Gleam, doing so much damage. Obviously, we know from last game it's easily going to be able to pick up the knockout on the Shen Pao that's just joining the field. But with Shen Pao carrying the Life Orb, I could kind of see it maybe being able to knock out this Fluttermane in one.
Possibly, and maybe that is the reason why Roberto did not go for a Terra, because that Chien Pao is playing Terra Ice. So maybe with that extra boosted damage, it should easily be able to knock out this Fluttermane, and obviously also the Dragonite, since it is weak to Ice types. And, the Magnezone here, now that the Dragonite both lost its multi-scale and its Dragon type, is weak to Thunderbolts.
Exactly, and that's going to be doing so much damage. Definitely a threat that Tommaso is going to have to weave his way around in this match as the Fluttermane does retreat for Tommaso. It's going to be that Iron Bundle coming in its stead. That's going to take an Ice Spinner much better. But this Dragonite is still on the field. It's not able to protect either. In fact, actually, that's kind of a little bit of a commonality on Tommaso's team. Not too many opportunities to protect. And we'll see if Roberto is taking full advantage of that.
Yeah, Roberto deciding to terrestrialize his Chien Pao here. So we might just see a Terra Ice, Ice Spinner coming out here onto that slot. Maybe that was the Fluttermane. Extreme Speed going to come out here, do barely less than half to that Chien Pao. Ice Spinner coming out here from this Chien Pao. What slot is it going to be targeting? Probably that Fluttermane. Yeah, it is going to be targeting that slot that was the Fluttermane, is now the Iron Bundle. We have not seen an attack yet from this Magnezone. It is going to be a Thunderbolt onto that Dragonite. Should be enough to knock it out. Yes, it does.
It certainly is. And yeah, I mean, it's a great knockout, of course, for Roberto, but I really like the position that Tommaso's in right now. Bringing that Iron Bundle onto the field, it is naturally faster than the Chien Pao on Roberto's side of the field. And even with a Life Orb, the Sucker Punch is going to struggle to be able to one-hit knock out at least the Iron Bundle. And that's going to give an opportunity for something like a Icy Wind to be coming out on this turn.
Yeah, however, the Iron Bundle on Tommaso's side of the field is not playing Icy Wind. It's playing Protect, Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, and Encore. So no speed control here for Tommaso, and Chien Pao usually is faster than most Fluttermanes, unless this is like a very weird tanky set, which I would not expect in this situation. And that Fluttermane, it is carrying Choice Specs, so it cannot go for a Protect here.
No, not at all. Again, looking at this position, the Magnezone could be the key to Roberto's victory here. There's no super effective damage on Tommaso's side of the field. So, once you've done what you can to knock out that Shen Pao, maybe the...
Sucker Punch coming on is going to be easily
KO.
enough to take out this Fluttermane. No problem. And, that Life Orb really showing how much of a difference that can make. Thunderbolt going to hit into that Protect, but at this point, I don't think there's a lot Tommaso can do to come back from this game.
Definitely eating my words right now. It seems like Roberto had the position all along, and Tommaso knows that, cancelling the battle. It's going to be Roberto Porretti going 6-0 at the Turin special event.
Yeah, 6-0, that's impressive, of course, going strong, meaning that he will probably definitely make at least top 64. I'm not saying, I don't want to jinx anything. I'm not saying he's going to lose the last few rounds, but, 6-0 is already a great position to be in,
right.
Going towards that day 2, which is happening tomorrow. So, yeah, really, really well played by both sides.
Definitely. And I've got to give a shout out in that match before we, talk about what happened. Let's just talk about the Pokemon that Roberto is using here, because, we've seen a lot of the tried and tested teams, the Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, Iron Bundle, Amoonguss, Ting-Lus. We've seen them all day long. And that's not to say that that's a problem, because these are great teams, and the people that have been piloting it have been doing so masterfully at this later stage of Regulation Set C. But it is nice to see, someone using their creativity, using Pokemon that aren't used very often, and showing them why different Pokemon can be effective.
Yeah, that Magnezone, as we saw in that match, did a lot of work, and we did not get to see the Breloom, unfortunately, but I have to say that even that Chi and Pao, even though it is one of those Pokemon that we see a lot, we usually see that Focus Sash set. We don't really see them with Life Orb, so that is also a little bit different, very unique.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to Julio Tarlau before, it's talking about that Terra Ice choice, which was the same choice that Roberto made, and how much of a difference it can make against Pokemon like Fluttermane. But Roberto's gone one stage further with that Life Orb and allowing the Sucker Punch to be able to knock out at least some Fluttermanes out there. I'm sure there's a few very defensively invested ones, defensively trained ones out there that maybe would be able to survive that hit, but just getting that one-hit KO on one of the most prevalent Pokemon in the format is just an excellent position to be in.
Yeah, in order to survive something like a Life Orb, Sucker Punch, you do need to train your Fluttermane a lot in those defensive stats. And I believe that we do tend to see players go for more of that, speedy and special attack investment onto Pokemon like Fluttermane. So it's not really a surprise that something like a Sucker Punch gets the KO there. But there are definitely Fluttermanes out there that can take that hit. Exactly,
and I was really looking forward to the Ice Spitter going into it, but I think the Sucker Punch was just so much more exciting there because it wasn't the move that we were expecting to be coming out in that turn, and it just did exactly what it needed to do at the right time. Even though in game 1 it switched in and just got knocked out straight away, Roberto was still able to come back from that position and take a win because of the way that the Magnezone played. But in game 2, we saw how powerful that Life Orb Shen Pao really was.
Yeah, and I really liked also how Roberto used his Terra types in that match, because we did see him just letting Garchomp and Talonflame go down to that Fluttermane.
Yeah.
He could have gone for a Terra Fire there to preserve that Garchomp, but deciding that, no, Garchomp has done what it has to do, and I'd rather bring in the Chi and Pao and give that its terrestrialization for the game and, win with that.
Yeah, and that's a really insightful point about how these trainers are opting to use their Terra types. You don't get to 5-0 and 6-0 without really thinking about what endgame you need to achieve. And yeah, in that case, it was just Arcanine's going down. We're gonna have the Dragonite not do too much to the Dragonite, and now it's the Pokemon in the back that are going to be the most impactful, especially that Magnezone. Once you've taken out the Arcanine, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and as we saw, that Volt Switch from that Choice Specs Magnezone, it did more than 50% to that Arcanine. And Arcanines, especially, with Will-O-Wisp and Howl, they tend to be very bulky, so that's an impressive amount of damage there.
an impressive amount of, defensive capability on that Magnezone as well, taking that Flare Blitz when it was Terra flying. And something, Roberto definitely had in his favor going into this matchup. Using Pokemon that are a little bit off meta means that Roberto's more experienced in the matchups that he's playing than Tommaso would be. But also more experienced using those sort of Pokemon as well, given that they were more prevalent in the previous years where Roberto was really doing very well in the video game championships.
Yeah, and also, what, as I was mentioning before, what else used to do really well in the past was that Garchomp, which we haven't really seen a lot in this meta, and I'm really excited to see it make a little bit of a comeback, because I mean, it's not like we don't see it at all, but players, they do tend to go for something like Ting Lu for a ground type, or there was a lot of great Tusk, which we haven't really seen any great Tusk yet so far.
No, and especially after not a couple of weeks ago, Marco Silva got to the finals using a great Tusk, and I was kind of expecting to see a few more there, but it is a real kind of toss-up between the two ground types, or the three ground types, should I say, of choice. Whether you want Ting Lu to be a little bit more defensive and control the board state, whether you want great Tusk to be putting so much offensive pressure on the field, or whether you want a bit of an all-rounder in Garchomp that can, switch in, take a few hits, still dealing good damage, but definitely not as weak on the special side as great Tusk would be.
No, definitely not. And this Garchomp, I really like the Clear Amulet set, because just the fact that you cannot be intimidated by things like Arcanine or Gyarados, which are running around a lot, just puts it in, it makes it such a threat, even if you're not playing that Swords Dance, which, some players, they do like to play that, some players not. But even without a Swords Dance, if you just, dish out some Dragon Claws, dish out some Earthquakes, dish out some Rock Slides, maybe even get a Flinch or something. I'm not saying anything, but, that is something, you can always go for a Rock Slide.
Where there's a Rock Slide, there's a way. But Roberto not opting for that Rock Slide at all on his Garchomp, but we have got Roberto ready to go with an interview on the stage. So let's kick it over to the couch and hear a little bit more about Roberto's team.
Yes, we are here with Roberto, winner of round 5 with a somewhat particular team, but you just won that match. Very well done. How are you feeling right now?
I feel very good, because I really like the team, because I built it from my own.
Yeah.
And so there are 2 picks that are not very common, but I'm proud of them, because they do their work very well.
Okay.
Breloom and Magnezone. They are Pokemon. They are not very good in all the teams, but in particular teams, I think that they work. Breloom is outclassed by Among Us, because Among Us is very strong. But they are different, because Among Us is very bulky, is the Spore, Holland Path, so Breloom is
more offensive,
fast, it takes damage. He has the Spore very fast, he has Smash Punch, so it takes damage. About Magnezone, I think that it's an underdog. Yeah, because it's a Pokemon that is very strong for me, because it takes the KO on Fluttermane. That is the strongest Pokemon of the format, I think.
That is very much true.
Against Gyarados is very strong, because it has the KO. And it does damage to the other Pokemons. There are, so for example, there is Arcanine that takes like
we saw
50%,
over 50%
from Volt Switch. And it's a very good Pokemon for me, because it has Volt Switch, that is a very strong move.
Absolutely.
It has Sturdy. This is another Sash, basically. It does damage. The only thing that he has that is not barrier is that it's not very fast, but it's bulky, he has good typing, and with the Terra, flying is very annoying, I think.
I do agree there. It's one of those few steel types as well in this format, and it can provide, with that even like slow Volt Switch, still can be quite interesting, because if your opponent doesn't have a good way of damaging it, just being able to slowly Volt Switch to something that you rather have, and you have the Talonflame to help with the speed as well.
To do the The only thing is with the tailwind, it does not have speeds like Iron Bundle, Roaring Moon with the speed boost. But except these two, it has a speed that is very.
It's plenty.
Yes,
it's enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
It's fine.
It's timid. I can say it because it's clear. And it's bulky. I think it doesn't have so much HP, but it's a very the defense and the special defense are very high. I think.
Yeah, exactly. And
but the other Pokemon, they are simply strong. Garchomp is another pick that is not very common, but
because no Rock Slide, for example.
Yeah, it has no Rock Slide because he has the two stops. Stomping and Earthquake, they are for me.
If it's enough, it's enough, so to say.
And Dragon Claw is the other stop that you click when you can't do the ground move in the flying type. And it's good against maybe Dragonite.
It's stronger than just a Rock Slide in that regard. So
because Rock Slide is a move that is strong, but you can put it if you are, for example, Scarf. Like a great task, but you have the Protector and a Hubble type, so Rock Slide is.
I understand.
My Garchomp does not very damage, so Rock Slide really does 1 PS. So
it's just a little bit of damage. So opting for more.
But the other Pokemon makes a lot of damage.
No,
I can say it.
We have seen the Live Orb Sucker Punch
Live Orb
from
Sucker
this
Punch.
Chimpao. Like, is that guaranteed?
I didn't expect to kill the Fluxerman because I didn't know the bulk. Because I thought the Specs one is
it's hard.
bulkier. And instead it dies. Okay, I won.
We're good.
We're good.
So you are now 5-0. Congrats on that. How are you feeling for this entire event?
This event is really important for me because it's the second event of the year for me. I didn't play much this year. I did only London and Turin. I decided to go to Turin, even I don't have CPs. I have like 10 CPs. For meet people,
it's still
friends.
Fun.
There are a lot of friends, Italian friends, of course, that some of them I didn't see from a long time. So it's very
always
beautiful.
nice to see friends again.
Yes, it's a very good event for me, and doing well here is
that's
very nice.
It's nice. It's a nice feeling. You're 5-0, so absolutely congrats for that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone you would like to shout out?
Yes, would like to hi my family. My cat, of course.
Oh, your cat.
My huge cat.
I know the feeling. I've got 3 as well.
And all of my friends that supported me, in particular the Rome friends, and Laboratorio Memes, that is a group, WhatsApp group. Very old with some players that
are still helping.
Don't play anymore, but we're still be friends. So it's a very good thing for me.
I'm happy to hear that. With that, thank you. We will be going quickly to round 6, and trainers, so don't go anywhere.